this all goes back to having a plan. If you got a plan for a personalized income plan that shows you how your money's going to last throughout the rest of your retirement, once you have that figured out, then you're going to be okay, right? And then it's just a matter of, okay, how do I invest this to make sure this all works? Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Well, we finally reached the finish line of another marathon election cycle. I think it was filled with more twists and turns than any political analyst could have even imagined. But now that we do have answers, where do we go from here? And that's where we're going to start today on Wealth Creator Radio with my friend Eric Heckman. He is a certified financial planner and a president of Heckman Financial. So we're so excited to have you here with us today. I want to start off with the phone number because you need it. That's what you'll need to call for some guidance. You may call or text the word visit to 800-454-1184. It's a complimentary appointment with Eric, okay? Here's the deal. We want to help you transform your retirement worries to confidence. That's why Eric is here every single weekend. He's offering you a complimentary toolbox, which is basically a retirement planning kit with educational materials, and it includes Eric's book, Blueprint to Worry Less Wealth. Text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. And remember, Eric's podcast comes out every Tuesday. So if you miss any part of our show, you can always go pick it up on Wealth Creator Radio. Search for wherever you get podcasts. Find us online anytime at Wealth Creator Radio. And Eric, hello to you.
Yeah, man. Well, it's good the election's over and, get on to new things and get rid of all the obnoxious ads, texts, and emails. And,
Yep.
it was definitely, like you said, some twists and turns, right? We had Harris had, 100-day campaign or something, probably the shortest presidential campaign in history for her.
Right.
In terms of timelines and stuff. And, once again, it was split down the middle and the division's going to stay there and things are going to still be nasty. And that's an unfortunate part, right?
Right. I do pray that there's no nasty.
But Trump does kind of thrive on that. He likes to have, he likes to stir the pot, I guess is the best way to say this.
I pray that he holds his lip, but we know we can't control that, right? We know. So
he's now the oldest person to ever, win office to a president. So
right.
It's kind of ironic.
Right. Yeah. And he won the second term, becoming the second president to win a non-consecutive presidential term. It goes clear back to Grover Cleveland back in 1892 when he won the election out of order too, non-consecutive presidential term. So as we're talking, with any election, some people are happy, some people are very sad and unhappy. But, I think everybody worries about, okay, what's going to happen with me? What's going to happen with me personally, my money? So, Eric, now that we know it is going to be the Trump administration taking over in January, tell us what listeners might expect, please.
Well, the big thing is taxes. So back when presidents and Congress actually got along back in Clinton Gingrich days, they passed a law that said you actually have to pay your bills. What? Who would have ever guessed, right? Yeah. So they'd actually balanced the budget back then, and then they passed a law that says that any tax cuts that can't be paid for have to expire within 10 years. Well, as we know, Trump version 1, was passed the Trump tax law cuts, and they were so not be able to be paid for that they expire after 8 years, which is the end of 2025. So he's going to get back into office at the same year his tax cuts are expiring. So that's going to be interesting. All the analysis pre-election said that Harris would run up the debt, but Trump would run up the debt even more, because he wanted even more cuts, right? And so, we're not paying our bills as we all know. We went from when Trump was first elected in office, 17 trillion in national debt. Now we're 35 trillion or more.
Mhm.
So that's doubled over that time frame.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think one of the biggest risks is if you have a lot of money in IRAs, 401ks, at some point, we can't just keep putting it on a credit card, right? At some point,
Right.
we all know we have to pay our bills. The only ones who say we should have tax cuts are politicians. So, all of us at our own households, we pay our bills, or else, you file bankruptcy and
Yeah.
get kicked out, or you get your house repossessed, or whatever, foreclosed on.
Yeah, we follow the rules.
But as a nation, we haven't been doing that, and there's going to be there's going to be some effects to that. There's going to be some consequences.
So I want to bring up this person, Becky Swansburg. She's CEO of Stonewood Financial. She's a former White House and Capitol Hill staffer. She wrote several books, including the No Compromise Retirement Plan. We have had audio clips of her before on our show. She's very knowledgeable on legislative risk in retirement. And she says, basically, what you're saying. Donald Trump has said, yeah, he's going to probably make sure those tax cuts are extended for all Americans. But she says this: the decision is actually up to Congress, not the White House. So I want you to hear what she had to say here, Eric, and get your response.
Big question mark is, will we get to keep these lower tax bracket rates? But I will remind listeners, it's just still a temporary fix. If Trump is able to get through an extension or another package of tax cuts, for an amount of time, we'll have lower tax bracket rates. But as we are heading into this rising tax environment in our country, based on our national debt and our spending trends, it is going to be very challenging to keep rates low for long.
Your reaction to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. She's actually in the movie I helped
That's
produce,
right.
the psychology of retirement,
Yeah.
and we actually have a event on December 3rd. So, definitely people, if they want to get some more information about that, you can text 800-454-1184, and you can text the word RSVP. And if you do RSVP again to 800-454-1184, you can find out a little bit more about that. But we go into more depth in that movie about, just the inevitable, that we're hitting this wall of tax debt, and it's not sustainable. And so, yeah, if he does keep him down low, it's nice for now, but yeah, there's gonna be a price to pay. So it'd be nice if people actually would, look forward to the future and not just put it on credit cards. But
Yeah.
of course, Trump did go bankrupt 6 times, right? So, yeah, you can't do that as a country. That would,
No.
destroy
Destroy
the
us.
international monetary system. So, we don't have that option. So that's the hard part is how are they going to be paid? And there's really only one way: is raise taxes at some point. And the more money that you have in IRAs and 401ks that are open to that government grab, the more danger you have for your own retirement. And that's why you need to take some action for sure.
So we're talking about how a new presidential administration could impact our finances, and here's another little snippet from Becky Swansburg about financial planning, how it goes far beyond the election.
If there's one thing I can promise, it is that politics is not going to get cleaner anytime soon. We are not one election away from solving America's problems. And that means the volatility of these elections are going to continue to weigh on the confidence we can have in the success or failure of our retirement approach unless we've done something to specifically address it.
Okay, your thoughts?
I mean, I think that's really key is there are a lot of options. It's not all doom and gloom. There are options to make more money tax free, to get more money out of the government's control. It takes planning. It takes several years to get it done. So ideally, you're doing this at 50, 55, or even younger. But that's why we work with people that we work with is they come to us and we figure out, how do you lower your lifetime taxation? How do you make sure that your retirement's more based on you and not the government? Social Security is scheduled to not be able to pay all their bills in just 10 years from now. So there's a lot of issues that you need to take on and protect yourself. So, if you want to have some options, you want to have some tools to do that, set a time to talk with us, or at least get a lot of the downloads. Are you paying too much money in taxes in retirement? Will your money last as long as you do? All that's available at our digital toolbox. All you have to do is text the word toolbox 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. So happy to have you along with us today. We have all experienced a series of unprecedented events in recent years, if you think about it. The global pandemic, historic market crash, then higher levels of interest rates, then inflation and global unrest. If you're like a lot of people, you might feel like you have less control over your future. So you know what we're going to do right now? We're going to discuss what you can be doing right now to help take back control of your financial future. Eric, let's start out by talking a little bit about where we are right now, financially speaking, and how we got here.
Yeah, well, it is one of those things where, after time, stuff fades away from memory of, things that were huge for you at the time, right? And not as big a deal. Mm-hmm. So, just, at the beginning of the decade, of course, in 2020, we had COVID hit, and, that led to that kind of almost a flash crash. 22 days, the market dropped 34%, and we didn't know what was going to go on and, where things were going to be, right? And then the government printed tons and tons and trillions of money and handed them out to everybody. Yeah. And, it did rebound, and obviously things changed a lot. So, but of course, that was something that nobody expected to that level or that speed and, all the things that happened there.
Yeah, exactly. So none of us can predict the future, obviously, with any certainty. So we have to, think about potential economic scenarios. So what's your best guess on how this might all unfold in the future, Eric? Do you have your crystal ball handy?
Yeah. Well, I actually do have a crystal ball.
You
It's
do?
in the conference room. Yeah, but I've never been able to get it turned on. And there's no on switch. So that's the annoying part.
That is annoying.
So somebody can tell me how to do that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
No, but beyond that, inflation's going to always be something. I mean, it's silly when people think that there's not inflation. It's always been there. It's just sometimes it's worse and sometimes better, and ebbs and flows, right? So, anytime you're talking about retirement or having money down the road, you can't retire on today's monthly income. You got to be able to retire on, a monthly income that's getting bigger, right? To keep up with those increasing costs. And then, of course, the tax law. The tax law ends at the end of 2025. So, it's going to go back to 2017 rates unless Congress gets their act together and does something. And historically speaking, any of these expiring tax laws, they've always replaced them with a whole new tax law, but almost always in December. So it's almost always last second.
Yep.
And probably the bigger thing I think that not enough people are paying attention to is the fact that no political party, not since Clinton Gingrich days in the 90s have we balanced our budget, have we tried to pay down our bills. All they're doing is say, hey, we'll give everybody, tax cuts and just keep running up the credit card. And at some point that bill's going to come due. And so that's when you have to think about, okay, how much of my dollars are open and liable for taxes by the government? And if you've got a ton of money in 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, any of these types of plans, those haven't been taxed yet. Those are supposed to be, you're supposed to retire at a lower tax bracket. Remember that?
Yeah.
That saying, which, I find very few of my clients are in. I actually find a lot of people in their mid 70s when they have to start taking that money out of their IRAs. They're often in a higher tax bracket than when they were working.
Good.
So that's how crazy that's been. So taxes are always going to be an issue. Obviously the stock market goes up and down, but this all goes back to having a plan. If you got a plan for a personalized income plan that shows you how your money's going to last throughout the rest of your retirement, which buckets should you be taking it from, and where should there be money coming from? Once you have that figured out, then you're going to be okay, right? And then it's just a matter of, okay, how do I invest this to make sure this all works, and which tax buckets should I be taking first, and what tax moves should I be doing today to lower my lifetime taxes, not just this year's taxes, right? And so that's what we do here at Heckman Financial. We actually help people create that blueprint to worry less wealth, where we look at your income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy plan and tell you which plan you have in place, because you got something. You just may not know what it is. And then we'll tell you, okay, here's some things that you might want to fix. So, if that's something you want to get a little bit more information on and you want to set a time to talk, we can talk on the phone with me, Eric Heckman. All you have to do is text word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text word visit 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
We make it very easy for you. Another thing on wealthcreatorradio.com is you can check out their events, okay? Eric holds many events throughout the years. You can get those details online, even sign up for them at wealthcreatorradio.com. And we're so happy you joined us today. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Now, Eric, okay, you've kind of told us about, you've got to have that plan. You always, every week we talk about what we need to do to get that plan. Let's go through, since this is not really a rosy picture for everybody, every retiree right now, what would be some steps people could take right now to try to regain control of their financial future in any scenario? I guess it would be plan for the worst, hope for the best, maybe?
Yep. Yeah. Well, one of the things you can't do is you can't retire on hopium.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're hooked on hopium, hopium's where you're hoping everything works out. So if you've got 100% of your money all in the stock market, you're hoping everything's going to work out. And we know statistically there's going to be some bad times and good times. And that's a pretty scary thing to be having 100% of everything in stocks and bonds. And so, one of the things that we have always done here is we always make sure all of our clients have three types of money. The market money, yes, that's for the long-term growth. But you want some steady income money, some, usually like 10 to 20% of your portfolio where it's just putting off good income, ideally in things that are less volatile, things that don't correlate with the stock market. And so that way you get some cash flow for those monthly withdrawals, right? You need to have income in retirement. And then also super critical is having some guaranteed funds that can't go away. There's some great tools out there where, like some of the insurance company tools, where you link the money to the stock market indexes, and you can earn great rates when the indexes go up. If the index goes negative, you don't lose a dime. You just start over now at a lower point, so it's easier to earn more percentage increase next year. And with something like that, you've already got some guaranteed money. You have some money you can grab, regardless of good or bad markets. You've got some steady income paying off, and that lets your market money kind of bounce around and not be as dependent on it. And Warren Buffett's old advice is rule number 1, never lose money, and rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. So
I love it.
yeah. So he's kind of joking. You always have to lose. You do have some ups and downs, but
yeah.
Right. But you want to focus on the downside.
So okay, I want to talk about people who maybe are trying to invest on their own and some common mistakes they're making.
Yeah, well, lots of times it's just chasing whatever the hot thing is, right? That's the really bad one. You always hear about the herd mentality of investors, where they, all of a sudden everybody starts talking about one thing and they all jump in, and then, oh, guess what? That thing's pretty much played out, and so then it goes right back down.
Yeah,
and and then also just not having a plan, really. I think that's usually the biggest problem is sometimes people say, oh, should I invest in this? It's like, well, where is that in your plan? And like, well, I don't have a plan. I just thought this thing sounded cool.
Yeah.
It's like, Okay, well, let's figure out why and where does it fit in and does it make sense for you and, so forth. And, the other part is I think a lot of investors know what they did when they invested into something. They never had a plan for how to get out of that thing. So if you're going to, put money in, say, buy some certain stock or fund, when are you going to sell it? If it goes up so much and also if it drops so much. And that's the part people never forget. They're never, plan on doing. They remember what they paid for it, but if it goes down, I'm not going to sell it because it's, I want to make it have it come back. Well, what if it never comes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's got up a ton, why don't you do some stuff to protect it and make sure it stays up? So, again, it all goes back to having a plan. We've also set up a great toolbox of great ideas, of great downloads. Will my money last as long as I do? Social Security, timing decisions, all sorts of stuff. A copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even the link to set up a time to talk. So if you want access to that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here, of course, with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. The 2017 legislation, known as the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, brought some huge changes to the tax code. It impacted a lot of individuals depending on their income level, their filing status, and, of course, deductions. Now, what's often forgotten is that, many of its provisions were only temporary, so they are set to expire on December 31st, 2025. Eric, you mentioned it earlier. How will people be impacted if Congress fails to act to extend these tax cuts?
Well, there's several things, and it's all very personal, right? Because everybody's situation is different. The Tax Cut Act also did the SALT deduction. It dropped it from being able to write off all your state taxes and property taxes, mortgage interest down to only 10 grand of that, of that state and local tax deduction. And that really hurt a lot of the people on the coast and stuff. And so, some people had $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 deductions that dropped to $10,000. And so some people, it might actually be a benefit to have it, go away. But on the flip side is the tax rates also went up. The 12% would be 15, 22 would be 25. So, basically most of the brackets would be about 3% higher. If you're both working, it's not as bad, but with the old tax law, if one person was working, the marriage thing was double all the brackets.
Oh my!
And so it was definitely a better deal for one person working, but if two, it was kind of a toss up there. So it really depends on your situation, but for the most part, more people will be paying taxes. For retirees, definitely they'll probably be paying more in tax. So that, of course, then says, you should be doing some tax planning, right? Before this happens.
Exactly. So it's not going to just be taxes on the wealthy. So let's get into that, what people could be doing right now to protect their retirement from these higher expected taxes.
Yeah, so the funny part I always think about is if, say you've got $1 million house with a $300,000 mortgage. Most people will say, I've got $700,000 in equity.
Right.
Now, if somebody's got $1 million in their IRA, 401k and such, I still to this day have never met anybody who says I have $700,000 of equity in my retirement plans.
Interesting.
So both of them have a loan against them.
Yeah.
Both of them have no difference in except for one's a very visible loan, right? That you get a statement and a payment due every month, right? For your mortgage. The other one, you just don't get that statement. You don't get that bill, and you don't see that until you start taking it out. And if rates go up, say rates go up by 3%, like they're slated to, that means 3% of your entire retirement balance drops, right? Because if you have that 3% higher tax, you just lost 3%. Doesn't, if you made 10% on your account, you still lost the 3.
Right.
Even with the other money, it's on your entire balance. So how can you start moving that money out? Well, one of the easiest things to do is start looking at Roth conversions. That's where you pay the tax today, which sucks, right? Nobody wants to pay taxes today. But, you don't go to the store after the sale ends.
No.
You try to get down there before the sale is over, right? So if things are on sale, and yes, taxes can go on sale, then you want to go down there and get the bargains, right? It's not a 2-for-1 or buy one, get one. It'd be nice if it was something like that, right? But, it is a tax savings. And so the more you can convert those monies over, the better off you're going to be long term. You're basically just buying the government out of your situation. And that way, if you've got 100,000 in a Roth, it's 100,000. It's not 70.
Right.
And so if you can get more of that money over there, and they don't have to be huge conversions. They can be, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. Most people we're not doing monster conversions because then of course you get to too high tax bracket.
Right. So yeah, Bobby and I, we're both, are we both 65? No, I'm 65 and he's not yet. He's turning 65. But what we're doing is something like that, trying to convert as much as we can from our traditional IRAs to the Roth. Is that something everybody should be doing? Or is it just more of an individual thing?
Well, for some, it might be individual. If you don't have that much money saved up, then you probably don't need if you're already in the 10% bracket, there's probably not much reason to do Roth conversions or something because you're going to be in a low bracket if that's probably not going to change.
Okay.
But, sometimes I see people who are, they're making just a little bit of money, maybe they're older and still working a little bit. And then they're trying to fund a deductible, IRA. It's like, why? Fund the Roth. You can also just fund that and then you never have to pay the tax on it. Because if you're going to save tax on this little tiny bit, because even if you're in the 10% and it goes to 12, that's still a 2% loss of your entire balance.
Right.
So anything you can. For most people, it does make sense to do some sort of conversion. Now, if you're in the 37% bracket, no, probably not. Right. So, but that's where maybe at least funding a Roth 401k, getting some money tax free. Because if you're in a high tax bracket, typically you're going to stay there if you're doing a good job and saving money and investing money and so forth. So you need to have that money built up and there. So that's the part we need to make sure that people are looking at and make sure that they have a plan, make sure they're looking at, really, to me, it's their lifetime taxation, not just that 1 year taxation. And not enough people do that. They all talk to their tax person and say, how do I save taxes today? Well, the only thing you can do, in February to April is do a deductible for IRA. Well, that may actually make you pay more tax over time. And so, lots of times people ask the wrong question and they get the right answer to the wrong question.
Oh.
So the right question is, how do I pay the least over my lifetime? That's where you have to have it be part of a plan. And if you have a personalized income plan, you can figure that stuff out. But one of the things we actually have in our digital toolbox is, am I paying too much in taxes in retirement? And then timing Social Security, because Social Security obviously has tax ramifications, other things like that. So we've got a lot of these great quick reads to get you some information, get you some education. Once you see that data and you see get that information, then it's up to you if you want to set a time to talk or not. But I would definitely urge people to get this data. The more you know, the better off you're going to be. So to get that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Yeah, obviously, Eric's goal is to help you keep more of your hard-earned money in your own pockets. So make sure you get a hold of Eric and his team. They would love to guide you and help you with tax strategies. So thank you so much for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. He has the education. He's licensed to help retirees with all of this. So again, thank you. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. Any final thing you want to say about tax planning tips?
Well, I mean, dollar for dollar, the most return you can do is tax planning. A lot of times people ask, what's the biggest expense going to be in my retirement? And a lot of people think it's medical costs, or inflation or, other things. It's always going to be taxes. Taxes are the number one cost in retirement, and people don't pay attention to it. And they've got a financial advisor who says, I don't do tax advice. And they've got a, tax advisor who says, I don't do financial advice, and good luck.
Right.
Right. So that's horrible. So that's why we're licensed to do taxes here. That's why we have that education, because, you need to be planning for both of them. You need to know how do I minimize tax over the rest of my lifetime. If all you have is 100% taxable income, there's no tax planning. It's just, pay it, right? But if you get some tax-free, some tax deferred, some taxable, some various different types of money, we can do all sorts of great tax planning. So, again, that's where education comes in. So, if you want to get access to that digital toolbox, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, and income needs in retirement? How will you afford it all? And what can you do now to help ensure your loved ones will be okay when you're gone? Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has access to tools and strategies that can help you pursue your retirement dreams without taking on too much risk with your money. Interest rates are the highest they've been in decades, so take advantage of this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help protect your retirement before it's gone. Learn about the tools and features available today that could provide bonuses, potentially adding up to tens of thousands of dollars in additional income when medical needs arise. Schedule your visit with Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial today by calling 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. These opportunities won't last forever, so call now to help protect your future. 800-454-1184.
Hi, we're so glad to have you with us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. And there are some quotes that kind of just stick in your mind. I don't know if it's happened to you, Eric. Maybe it's from a grandparent or a parent, maybe even a famous person. You heard, a bit of wisdom and you kind of held on to that. Some words of wisdom stand the test of time. So I thought that's what we do today, Eric, is go over some timeless advice and some quotable quotes that actually relate to retirement. But first, I want to get from you, is there any pieces of wisdom that you remember from your parents or your grandparents or anybody?
Well, just the pay yourself first, I think is always the most critical one.
Good.
Just once you start putting some money away for yourself, it just magically gets bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing and it's not complicated, but.
Yeah. Was that your dad then that taught you that, your parents?
Yeah. I think it's probably just more actually just when I got into the industry. That was kind of a big thing is, are you paying yourself first? And look at that. Yeah.
I remember my dad always saying, shut the door behind you. Were you born in a barn? So that wasn't really financial wisdom, but that's what I remember him saying all the time. Cause we had that little door to the garage, and we'd always leave it open. So anyway, all right, moving on to some quotable quotes from this first one from Charles Dickens. And of course, he's big in the literary world, but, he doesn't really give financial advice, but his character did, okay? One of his characters that he wrote about gave this advice, and it said, annual income, 20 pounds, annual expenditure, 19.6, result happiness. Annual income, 20 pounds, annual expenditure, 20 pound ought, and 6, result misery. So you kind of have to translate that from Old English, right? But basically it means don't spend more than you make.
Yeah, that's pretty simple advice. But, you'd be amazed at how many people, swipe, and then all of a sudden, they're spending more on credit cards than they're making it in a year. And yeah, they wonder why they're not getting ahead. They've got all these cool toys and all this other stuff and keeping up with everybody. But no, they're not actually keeping up with people. They're actually going backward because, yeah, they're spending more than they make. So it will result in misery. So that's for sure.
So we put an end to that in my marriage. Well, I live off of cash, right? And so I just have an envelope. We have the envelope system. It's actually the Dave Ramsey system where I put my, so-called allowance for the next 2 weeks in there. And once it's gone, because I would overspend in the checkbook all the time. I'm like, he'll move money over. Bobby will move money over. He'll put it there, but that wasn't getting us anywhere. And it was causing a lot of conflict in our marriage. So I'm like, let's do the envelope system. Speaking of Dave Ramsey, here's some of his financial advice. You must gain control over your money or the lack of it will forever control you.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's one of those ones where once you start getting behind the curve or whatever phrase you want to use, right? You've got too much debt. There's not going to be much you can do about it. You just, you see people do really dumb stuff. I mean, I've seen it multiple times where somebody raids their retirement plans and pays those, the tax and the tax penalty. The tax penalties, 10% federal, 2.5% state. Usually the taxes are 20, 30%. So, a lot of times you lose half the money. So often when those people need that money, they want to do it with no withholding or very little withholding. Well, guess what happens then? Tax time happens. They owe too much money. They go raid more of it. Mm-hmm. And it's this endless cycle. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes they'll pay off those credit cards and then they'll come back. And so, so if you're not taking control of that, if you're not, stepping forward and making sure that you're doing good. So there's a couple things. One, anytime I'm talking to people about, developing that income plan in retirement, it's okay, how much do you really spend? Well, I'll get stuff like, I spend, we spend like $3,000 a month or, $4,000 a month, $5,000, whatever the number is. Right. Mm-hmm. But then I know how much they're making and I kind of go, that's interesting because you should have a lot in savings then. Right. And so often I'll have them do what I like to call the no BS budget. And the no BS budget is just taking your last 12 bank statements. So 1 year's worth of bank statements, add up all the withdrawals and divide by 12. So that's how much money you took out of your bank account, right?
Yeah.
If you're paying off your credit card every month, that includes your credit card spending. Now, if a year ago your credit cards were at 10,000 and now they're at 20, well, you got to add another $10,000 there, right? Because you spent, you went up in debt. But hopefully that didn't happen. But if you just look at those last 12 months bank's withdrawals, those people who thought they were spending 3 or 4 or 5,000 are often spending, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's my rough average is probably 30 to 40% that people spend more than they think.
Oh my.
I mean, it's not a little off. It's always a lot off.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things where, once you have that wake up call and you go, oh, I'm actually spending that much? Because, a lot of times we don't know. We're tapping, right? And we're just paying off the credit card bill. Or people think when they think about their spending, they think about their mortgage and their, credit card bill. But they may not be thinking about their ATM or cash usage, right? Other things. Yeah. So there's all these little places where money's leaking out the system. So, so one of the things that we've actually created was a lot of great tools in a digital toolbox for people to see, will your money last as long as you do? So that kind of goes about that. Are you paying too much in taxes? That's another way to have more money, right? And then, just ways for women investors to empower themselves too. So we also have a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. All that resides in a free download site. So you can read all this stuff and get some great education. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And I'm so glad you joined us today. Great stuff here that Eric really offers you every single weekend. Take advantage of it if you have not done that yet. So many people are taking advantage of it and going in to see Eric and his team and really, gaining some mileage on what they need to be doing for retirement. So that's why we're here every single weekend, and we're so happy to have you along with us. All right, we are getting some timeless advice from Eric about retirement using some quotes from famous people. Here's another one. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "It takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan." So how do we go from wishing for things to happen in retirement to making those plans, Eric?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really, this is a lot of this is not rocket science, just literally, right? So, a lot of that is it's very, like I said, very simple. I mean, just easy things like from day one, once you start, working as my sons are, going out in the working world, put whatever you can, put something away into that, that retirement plan. If you're getting a match, max out that match. Cause then all of a sudden, your $50 a check is now going to be $100. So there's simple things like that. Right. And, but beyond that, once you've started building up more money and you're in your, 50s, 60s, that's when you really need to start focusing and going, okay, how am I going to do this? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to have enough money to last? These are big questions, right? That we all have, and you should have, right? You really should be asking those. You don't want to not ask that and find out you have no money left and you're 80, right?
No.
So yeah, that's one of those things where it's just about taking some time, and we take our time to do our taxes. Hopefully you go to the dentist. Not enough people work out enough, but we may or may not necessarily all eat right. But this is actually somewhat easier than a lot of that stuff, because once you have a plan, so you spend a few hours, a couple meetings getting that plan. Once you have it, all you have to do is once a year check in and make sure it's still on track. You don't have to recreate it every year. You don't have to, go from zero to, a ton of energy again, because once you got it up in motion, it's just more about, let's just do some adjustments, right? Make sure you're still on track. And so, yeah, setting that time to talk to somebody is, I think, the most critical thing.
Yeah, very good. And then finally, from comedian Henny Youngman, "I've got all the money I'll ever need if I die by 4:00. Kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I've got a friend of mine who likes to go, she'll like, can I just retire now? And she's in her 50s and hasn't saved up enough money for sure. And I'm like, yeah, you can retire anytime. It's just for how long? Right. Yeah. You can be retired for a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, 2 months, but you want to be retired for 50 years? No, you have not saved enough. And so that's one of those things where, you need to know that. You need to know, is this money going to last as long as I do? That's one of the big critical items. And so when we do that blueprint to worry less wealth, we create that income plan that tells you, will your money last if you retire that age? And maybe you have to adjust things, right? And then we'll go over how to structure that money, how to start moving that money to pay out that income that you need, how you can mitigate taxes today and pay less over the rest of your lifetime. Make sure you have that healthcare issues all taken care of. And then lastly, make sure it goes to somebody you love, so that way you can retire more and worry less. So again, if you want to have a chance to do that, no cost, no obligation, let's just set up a 15 to 30 minute phone call. All you got to do is super easy. Text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word VISIT, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
I am Luann Fulmer with Eric Heckman. He is president of Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. And all right, we have come to the time in our show, Eric, where we're going to have you tell another wealth success story, because this is always something, just a really good example for us to see how things can actually work out for the best with retirees and hear about their situations. So what do you have for us today, Eric?
Yeah, well, this one's, we'll call them Al and Tina, but they came to me and, well, it was right before all the COVID stuff happened and stuff. And they were, Al was talking to somebody, this guy Jose at work, and they were, both looking to retire, and they were in those target date funds, those ones that are, have a date on them, it's like 2025, 2030 and all that stuff. And those are really just a 60-40 stock, 60% stock, 40% bonds. And, and he was just, well, I think it's, to be honest, it's probably his wife saying, don't screw this up. So, right. So she wanted him to talk with somebody. And so when we met, we kind of said, yeah, well, this is great for growth, but you need to start having income. It's going to be a big change. And it's a very big change when you start having to withdraw money out of this after 30, 40 years of, putting money in, right? And so, we divided that up into the three types of money I always like to refer to, which is, not just market money, but foundational stuff that can't go away, some steady income. Then once he retired, well, obviously, if people remember, 2020 was a little kind of a crazy year with the shutdowns and all that stuff, and the market dropped and then started coming back up. Well, we were able to pivot during that drop to the foundational money and the steady income. And we didn't have to lock in any losses. We didn't have to change any of his market money. Then the market went up great. So we pivoted that next year to taking that money out of there. And then once again, the next year was kind of a bad year in the market. So we pivoted again to taking that foundational money. But all the time, that steady income, all those years was paying out some income. And so by having those options from, switching from one side to the other side, year by year, we didn't have to lock in as much. And Al at one point, told me the fact that, he was talking with his friend Jose, and he had huge losses. He had to sell off stuff when things were down, and he's very freaked out about his retirement. He still hasn't met with me, but Al's very happy because he's like, yeah, it is scary being retired, but now he's getting used to taking the money out and having that. And at least we're able to kind of figure out which way to take monies from. We're also blending in which should he be taking IRA money or, just regular savings, regular investment stuff. So we're also looking at the tax aspects along the way. But just having some plan, they don't have to see all the news and see all the bad stuff out there and be freaked out. Because they know, we've got a plan for this. This is what we've been doing. This is how we've been changing things. They know we're going to have a meeting usually every January to figure out how we're getting our income this year. If there's big changes, we get a hold of them. So by having that knowledge, it just makes you so much more relaxed, and just they can go off and have fun and travel like they've been doing, and seeing their families and doing all the stuff they've always wanted to do, and getting that bucket list checked off. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word TOOLBOX to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out the Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.
This radio show is a paid placement.